Welcome to the Hyper Guy Motivational Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I have another wonderful guest today. Every one of my podcasts, I have amazing people. I'm so lucky to get them on. And today I have Grace Nowzari, and I've been wanting to have Grace on. God, it's been almost 4 years now. Part of it is that she's super busy, but one of the things, she's done amazing things in her life, and she's just one of the most upbeat, happy people I've ever met. And no, it's all good, Grace. No worries. So Grace graduated from the University of Southern California from the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. She has a BA, a Bachelor of Arts, and she focused on communication and journalism. She has her master's from Pepperdine, which is interesting. She went from USC to Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm.
Two good schools, I must say. She has her master's in clinical psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. And the other thing she loves to do, besides, we're going to get into her about one of her videos that went viral. That is so funny because I actually saw her on this video a couple years after I knew her. And I'm like, oh my God, Grace, oh my God, that ping pong video. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but she loves improv. And one of the reasons I wanted to have her on was because she does a combination of all these things. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into this story right now. And thank you so much, Grace, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the lovely intro.
Oh, absolutely. So I always start off the same way, just to give everybody an idea of a person's background. And where were you born and raised?
I'm from LA, born and raised. I'm still here in the Westwood area. So yeah, I love it a lot. And my family's here, my friends are here. So hopefully planning on staying here for a good amount of time.
So what was it like growing up in LA, and what was your life like growing up?
Yeah, I loved it. Had, went to the same middle school and high school. It was pretty big. My parents are together. I really value them. They've been like such a huge support system. My dad is Persian. He's from Iran. And my mom has a more like European background. So really interesting combination, but they've been a huge support system for me emotionally and financially in every way. So I'm really grateful for them. And I've been doing improv here. I do my ping pong here. I've been doing ping pong since like high school. So it's been a while. I was on the SC team, so that was fun. And go Trojans. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So let me ask you this. What were some of your growing up? Were you like active in sports, or did you like academics? And what was growing up for you like in LA, and what were some of your challenges growing up too?
That's a great question. I think that one of my biggest challenges is why I got into improv. But I mostly focused on ping pong, which did not happen at my high school because it's such a random sport. But I would go to this club outside of my high school and found a lot of family and community there. And then I really liked it. I think, I went to a public school and it was like a melting pot, a lot of different people. I found my own people there. I think a challenge for me, and I was also mostly like academic focused, but I was I don't want to say introverted, because introverted doesn't mean you're shy necessarily. It just means that's where you get your energy from, you need to recharge and be alone a little bit. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're shy. So I don't want to misuse that word. I would say shy and socially awkward. And that was my biggest challenge for me, was, I guess, like finding my voice and putting myself out there in high school. And improv, joining that community, has really changed that and given me the confidence that I need to, be myself and be proud of who I am.
So I guess I want to know, how did you kind of like find out? I mean, I think when you're younger, like you said, you don't want to use the word introverted. There had to be a point when you're growing up when you realize, like, hey, I need to work on this part of myself, or hey, I noticed this about myself. Like, how did you grapple with that, and how did you know that even was something that you had to work on?
Right. I think, because this is going to sound so sad, but I think it's true. I think that, I thought of myself as like, once I leave high school, no one's going to remember me. Like, I'm just going to be one of those like background characters, and I didn't like that. And I wanted to be I felt like a background character in my own life, and I just wanted to change that too. So yeah, and it took a while. Even in college, I was very shy, and I still am shy. It's not natural for me to go out there and do my thing, but it's a lot easier now than it used to be.
You said you were like academically focused when you were younger. What made you so academically focused? Have you always been like, have you always loved studying, and what made you so focused on your academics?
Definitely my family. I think they highly valued education, and grades were just like really important in my family more than anything. So I think that's what motivated me the most. I wasn't like the best student by any means, but I focused more on school than socializing and other things, even in college.
And so when you decided to go to college, why did you choose, well, a couple questions. Why did you choose USC,
Hmm.
and why communications?
Yeah.
Yeah, and because you just said, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, why did you choose? Because you said that was one of your challenges. So
Right.
it's interesting to me because you said, hey, I'm this way. And did you say, I need to deal with this, or this is what I want to do
Mm.
in the future?
So I would always, have it as a running joke that I'm like socially awkward, but I do communications. I think that first I went to SC because my dad was a director there, and free tuition, so that was ideal. And we always loved the SC family and their values, so that's why I chose it. And then for why I chose communication, I really just didn't know what I wanted to do, and that just felt very like, I don't know, just what you do when you don't know what you want to do sometimes. But it was fun. And I also did French as another major. And yeah, language is definitely really valuable in my family too, and maintaining that. And yeah, so I wouldn't say that the communication necessarily relates to my desire to, branch out in that way yet. But yeah, I was just sort of placed there because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
And so when did you get into ping pong? Like, how did that work into your life? Like, what spurred that interest on?
Yeah, it's really random. My father plays, and he brought me to this club in LA, and the sports club, and I just fell in love with it, and I just wanted to keep going back. And I think I got into it like early high school, I want to say, or maybe late middle school. So it's been a large part of my life. Yeah.
And so you still play today. How often do you play?
I used to play 3 times a week, and I would play for hours, and because I just loved it there. It was like my home away from home. Now I just play like once a week for 2 hours, and I just hit with my best friend who's very good and introduced me to improv actually.
So I'm going to digress a little bit here. You When it comes to ping pong, um, when you were playing at this club, did some of ping pong is an Olympic sport.
Hmm.
Do some of the Olympians actually practice at this club, or have they funneled through there? Or some great players have funneled through this club?
Um, no, but my previous coach was in the Olympics. I forget, what her I think she got like second or third place in the Olympics, but she essentially is a coach there still. And I would say she's the only one that I know of that has been in the Olympics. Yeah.
And then how did you get onto the USC's team?
You just kind of audition. I think you just like had to beat like a certain like player that they had there or something, just kind of show that you have some skill set. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did tournaments against other teams and other schools, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So let me tell me what your experience at USC was like, and what were some of your challenges at USC?
I think the same thing that I had in high school. I just focused on academics. I literally did not go to a single party. I had like very, very few friends, if any, really. It was hard. It was definitely isolating for me. So I would say the challenge was just, feeling like I was good enough to be in other people's lives and to, fit in and have other people around me.
And then, so where do you think you're at with that? Like you said, struggling with those things. where do you feel like you're at today as opposed to then in terms of that journey?
Um, I always say this and people make fun of me, but now it's like I feel like people are lucky to know me, which sounds so bad. But I just did like a 180. So I don't know if it's like super egotistical or narcissistic to say that, but that's just the outlook that I like to have on myself, that I think I'm a good person now, and not that I wasn't before, but I really see my good qualities and have confidence in myself and have higher self-esteem. So I guess it's fake it till you make it, but that's my outlook now.
So essentially what you're saying, over time, you've just built that confidence up.
Mhm.
Ever since I've known you, you've always been a very happy, confident person. But like you said,
Really?
yeah, it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that that you're working on that, and
Mhm.
that I guess outward appearances sometimes are like, hey, this person's got all this stuff perfectly going on. And I think a lot of times we always feel like when we meet people that um that everything goes perfectly for them, and that everything is God, everything that they've conquered the world in some ways. But it's
Mm.
interesting. It's great to know that it's like life is a lifelong struggle of trying to get to know
Mhm.
yourself and trying to improve and be a better person. And it's awesome that you got to this point where like you're loving yourself a lot now, and you're appreciating yourself a lot now,
Yeah.
and you want other people to realize, hey, I'm a good person, and and it's nice to know me because I'll bring some of that kindness and joy to your heart. Um, so let me ask you. I have to ask you this, and we're going to get into this, and we'll
Mhm.
get into how you got into your master's program. But
Okay.
so when did that how did you happen to get on this big YouTube channel for this ping pong?
Yeah, they just came and I guess they were like, stopping at different places. They just came to our club and challenged a bunch of people, and I was just one of them, and I lost immediately because they're amazing, and it was a lot of fun though.
So that was pretty viral. I mean, I guess he's. How did you hear that it went so viral?
I think people that I haven't spoken to in a long time just messaged me and they're like, "Is this you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's." I'm surprised that you even like know about it. So that's pretty funny. But it's great that like me losing immediately is the video that everyone's seeing though. I love that.
Excuse me. So you ended up getting your master's after you went to Pepperdine. Why did you choose Pepperdine, and why did you choose
Clinical
your
psychology.
yes, uh-huh.
I chose Pepperdine because they were the only school that had the program that I wanted. So I only applied there, and I was like, if it's not for me, I'll get in. And I was pretty confident that I would for some reason, and I got in, and it worked out perfectly. And I chose clinical psychology because during COVID, I got COVID before like the vaccines or whatever, and I woke up one day and developed this dissociation, sort of this like really bad anxiety problem where everything seemed like virtual reality to me, even though it was normal life. The world looked different to me, and it would give me a panic attack. So I would just leave my house. I couldn't even like take a walk around my neighborhood without having a panic attack, and I thought it would go away. And it's, been years, it still hasn't gone away. I still have trouble traveling, even driving to Pepperdine sometimes, has been an issue. And I just have to, talk myself through it and, really learned how to navigate life with it. But at that point, when I was in sort of a down, depressed state because of it, because it kind of like, ruined my life in a way, right? I couldn't leave my home or do much that I used to love doing, like traveling. And then I went to Reddit, as we all do. And so it's called agoraphobia, is what I have. And it's where you feel trapped when you, even in an outside space, you just constantly feel like you're trapped. And I went to Reddit under like r slash or whatever, agoraphobia. And I just found a community of people there. And, they were posting their own questions about it, asking for help. And I would start answering their questions, telling them what was working for me. And then I realized I really love this. I really love helping people and giving them my advice through my experience. And then I'm like, wait, I can do this for a living. I can give advice to people and help them through, their experiences and their hard times and change their lives. So that made me want to do clinical psychology. And I love it. It's definitely what I should be doing.
And you said agoraphobia.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have I'm sure you've done tons of research on this, and I have a clinical psych background myself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, did you look at the underlying causes for yourself?
I have not been able to find out what exactly caused it, but all I know is it happened during the pandemic and it occurred when I had COVID at the worst moments of when I had COVID.
And then what are kind of the things and the steps that you've taken to kind of ameliorate those and deal with some of those issues?
Yeah, great question. It was really hard at first because it's sort of an invisible problem. People don't know you're going through it. And what helped the most was positive self-talk and encouragement and learning to be your own cheerleader. Because even, going to the grocery store would be a really big problem for me. It would be a huge challenge, something that everyone does very easily. And no one's going to celebrate you for that accomplishment of going to the market and getting something, right? And coming back. That's something that everyone does. But when it's a huge struggle for you, you have to be that person that motivates yourself and acknowledges you did something really huge today. No one else, sees what you did, but I do. And I'm acknowledging that that was a huge accomplishment today. And just being your own cheerleader in that way.
Yeah, I really like what you said about being your own cheerleader and the positive self-talk. It's almost like the cognitive therapy point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really like that. And I think people, it's important for people to understand how important that positive self-talk is, and that you can actually work through a lot of things by doing that. Can you give me an example of how this positive self-talk, what you do in terms of actually, how do you actually do it? And how often do you have to do it? And when I say this, I think many people that I've met in my life, and not only when I used to do counsel folks, is the importance of really utilizing that positive self-talk in sometimes daily, or even it can even be hourly if you need to do it. But you really can change the way you approach life. Do you agree? That's being your
100%. Yes. I think even on a subconscious level, that's why I don't like even, calling myself oh, haha, that was stupid of me to say, or, even someone else making fun of me. I don't like that because subconsciously, your subconscious can't tell the difference between what's, true and what isn't. So you internalize that anyway. So that's been huge, just being around people that elevate me and don't talk to me like that. And making sure I, talk to myself like that, most importantly. And what it looks like is me, celebrating oh, that was an amazing accomplishment that you did. Wow, high five myself, and during the moments when I'm having a struggle, when I'm having an agoraphobic moment, and feeling that anxiety come on, I just say to myself, you're stronger than your anxiety. Prove to yourself that you can keep going, prove your anxiety wrong. And that also, it's important to note that anxiety isn't a bad thing inherently. I think people have a negative relationship and association with anxiety. When looking back, from an evolutionary standpoint, it was there to protect us, right? So it serves a purpose, and it's a good thing that we have it. But now anxiety sort of has this error within it where it can't differentiate from us being attacked by a tiger and us giving a presentation where we're not going to die, but it still feels that way. So anxiety is inherently a good thing that saves us. But now we sort of, it's not always necessary, but it's still there. And I think learning that, my anxiety is there to help me, has been also helpful to understand and realize.
Yeah, I like that. It's like what you're saying is it can be a healthy thing. It's just how you manage it.
Right.
And the tools you use to manage it. So if you don't know how to manage it, it can cause some things that might hurt your life. But if you learn how to like use that anxiety for a positive
Hmm.
um, and push it into the right direction, it's actually, like you said, it's a natural, healthy thing. It's just about how we manage it.
Right, right.
Yeah. And I love that. And so I love that. And I think it's great that you're actually in the helping field now. So you're able to use those tools to help other folks get through that.
Totally. I always say that, the agoraphobia has made life hard, but it, brought me to the path that I love. So in a way, it all worked out for me.
So let me ask you, what do you do to, I know you're a very, very busy person. You're doing a lot of things. What do you do to manage your stress? And what are some kind of tips that you give other people on like how they should manage their stress as well?
Yeah, I think I don't do this enough, but meditation is a huge thing. And what I do is, having a work-life balance, making sure that I prioritize my social life, my friendships, my relationships over work. Because, that'll come and go, that'll always, kind of be there, but your relationships, that's like so important and foundational and keeps you going. And I think in terms of managing work stress, we have clients and, it's a lot of stuff that they tell us. I work with veterans who have addiction issues that they struggle with and lower income, and they're all males, very specific population. But a lot of trauma there and a lot of horrible stories that are, just horrific to hear. And it can be really stressful to carry that home and into other relationships potentially. You want to learn how to leave that at work. So what I do is I have this like lanyard that you wear to work, and as soon as I'm done with work I just take it off, and that's sort of my representation of like I'm leaving this at work. And definitely letting myself cry it out if like I'm in the car, letting myself feel those emotions instead of just like going on about my day. If something hard happened at work, I think just like, feeling those emotions is really important. And yeah, just like staying on top of things, being organized, healthy diet. I like to go to the gym every day. That's been really helpful. Go to the sauna if you can. Just things like that, taking care of yourself and yeah, making sure that your cup is full, because if it isn't, then you can't pour into other people. And also doing your own therapy. I've been doing a lot of inner child work that, is apparent on my own Instagram channel, but that's been very, very helpful.
I really love when you talk about work-life balance. I think that's something that all of us struggle with,
Mhm.
is trying to have that work-life balance. But you talked about the importance of having maintaining your friendships
Mhm.
and making sure you're building the community. I know that you're probably familiar, like blue zones, that people that have long lives in areas of the world that they call blue zones. That the two things that are critically important, well, actually three, is obviously going to be exercise, nutrition. That's one thing, but keeping active and keeping your mind
Mhm.
active and developing those or relationships with friends and families so that you can keep that community alive to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so many people, um, we isolate ourselves, especially like
Mhm.
in communities where we're just focused on making money
Right.
and we kind of live our own lives. I mean, I know some
Right.
people that they live next to each other for years and don't even know each other. They'll see each other for a second in the morning and say
Right.
hello, and that's it. But I really think it's important that you join organizations and join professional
Yeah.
organizations or social organizations and really like put yourself out there and develop those communities so you can have those ties.
Right, right. I think that, we live in an individualistic society, and I'm lucky that I come from, my dad's side is Persian. They're very collectivistic and they really value family and community. And I think that's kind of, changed my perspective of like, community is important. We're social creatures, and, we'll die without each other. Essentially, we need each other. So it's important to, maintain friendships, like you've said, and continue with the community you have, and yeah, count on them and have them count on you.
One of the things that we talked about is improv. So we
Mhm.
talked about improv, and I guess the question is, first I'm going to ask you, can you please let people know, our listeners know, what is improv?
Yeah. So a lot of people, it's essentially it's acting without a script is what I like to call it. A lot of people think it's comedy. It's not necessarily comedy. It's just it can be sad, it can be serious, but most of it is comedy because that's what people want to see. But it's essentially like building a world around you without props. And like instead of holding an actual phone, you hold it like this. And you improvise, you essentially are a kid. You just no hesitation, you just say what comes to mind. And I think that's super important about it is you don't doubt yourself, you just talk, you just act, and you are just in the moment and you're present, grounded. And I think that's been really helpful with decreasing stress.
And then how did you first get into improv?
Yeah, my best friend Dan, he's a postdoc at UCLA right now doing psychology, social psychology, and I met him at ping pong, and he introduced me to it. He took me to a show, and I fell in love with it. I loved the audience was just so like captivated and engaged, and the people there, such a warm community. And at first, I thought it was really cringy. We all have this idea of what improv is, and it's really cringy for most people, I think. And when I went, it was totally the opposite, and I loved it. And I signed up for classes the next day.
So why do you think people think it's cringy, I guess, is the best way to.
I think it's just made fun of in like, media. And we like there's some SNL skits that show what improv is, which is funny because they all do improv. And it's just, these theater nerds that are there just, acting goofy and kind of cringy. I think it's the type of people that they think improv attracts, which are these like, awkward, people that don't have lives and cringy people, theater nerds. But it's such a huge community of people. A lot of them, my other friend that does it, he's an ophthalmologist. I have another friend that's, a accountant. They're just all walks of life, all, really intelligent people, and they're just doing this for fun. Some people do it professionally. I'm not here to do that. I just do it to have fun and be a kid again and be silly. Because I think now as adults, we just aren't silly anymore. And it's unfortunate because we should be.
Grace, when's the first time that you did it? And then what was that experience like the first time? Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah, it was really scary. And I warned the teacher. I was like, I have this anxiety problem. If I leave the class, that's why. Like, it was terrifying to sit in a class where I felt trapped in it in case I had anxiety symptoms. I, was just so scared of that. But I got so distracted because it was so fun that I, didn't even remember I had anxiety. But I was terrified to go. It took me like a year to not sit in the back, like, hide my face and just go because I had to go. And I felt like, people are paying for these classes and they have to watch me perform, and I feel bad for them.
Well, Grace, you know what? I'm gonna try this. Okay, I've never done it before. I'm gonna try it, and I think I'm gonna set this up. We'll just do it for a couple of minutes. I don't even know how to if I'm doing it correctly, but I'm gonna try to do it because you're the champion. I'm just kind of like on the ride with you. So I'm gonna set it that basically, we're on a spaceship and we're stuck up here, and we've been stuck up there. We've been stuck on the spaceship for like about a month. And we haven't been able to get back, and I'm gonna blame you for it, and then we'll just go back and forth.
Okay, so we've been stuck in a spaceship for a month, and okay.
And then we're trying to get back, but I'm gonna leave it to you to get back. So here it goes.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I'll,
Okay. Getting put on the spot here.
I'll try it first, okay?
Okay.
Very good. We'll just do it for a couple minutes. Oh my God, Grace, I've had such a long night. I can barely sleep. You've been promising to get us back to Earth for over a month now, and ever since you broke the microwave, I have not been able to hardly eat, and I'm just done with this.
Captain Martin, I hear your concerns, and I just, don't you just love it though up here, just you and me together? Don't you feel like there could be something there?
Well, I've always liked you, but like part of the passion that I've had for you is like those microwave sandwiches you made. It's done now. And ever since you broke the microwave, like I totally look at you differently.
Wow, okay. that was coming from, a special place in my heart. I was doing that for you, thinking that those sandwiches was a symbolic representation of my love. But clearly you don't understand that.
And then on top of that, when are you gonna start working on our engine that you broke? And like, when are you gonna fix it so we can get back? I can't be up here. I have a dental appointment in about a couple weeks that I've been looking forward to. And you know what? And you even told me that I needed to get my teeth whitened, and you haven't done anything to get me
I'm just
down.
gonna say it. I'm in love with you. I'm just gonna say it.
Well, I've always known that. But again, I want to get back, Grace. I'm done with this. Like, I'm totally done with it.
I hear your concerns and they are valid, but I think that relationships are more important. So maybe I did this on purpose so we could be here forever together.
I was thinking that you did that, and I was like, no, that can't be possibly
It
the
is,
reason you should.
though. It is.
You know what? I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm done. Grace, you know what? This is like so hard. I have to tell you. I have to tell you. I was thinking to myself how to like approach this before we started, because it's so difficult to do this on the fly, and I so appreciate. You could tell that you're like so natural and good at it. And let me ask you the question: how if somebody wants to get into improv, and what I really like about improv is that it does push you intellectually, because you have to kind of really develop the skills to like, how do I connect things together and move it from one thing to the next?
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you chain things together?
So there are a few rules. Sorry, there are a few rules that we don't like to say there are rules to improv, but there's a few like foundations. Like, you want to know your why, and you want to know most of them should be relationship driven. So your why was you want to go back down, but I didn't want to make it about that. I wanted to make it about you and me, because that's more interesting, and um and we can kind of like develop a connection if it's about you and me versus like us going back down, right? And sometimes it's not about solving the problem. Sometimes it's take what's bad and make it worse. And a lot of the times it's about you don't want to ask questions, you want to already make assumptions. So instead of like why didn't you make me a sandwich, it's like why I didn't make you a sandwich.
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, how you got to a point where like, will you ever get to a point like, how do you get, I guess there's points in the improv that you're stuck. Like, have you ever had like a freeze, and then what do you do? What do you
I
do
think
with that?
everyone does. You just have to trust yourself and trust your scene partners and live in the sandbox is what we call it. There's always people try to reach outside and find something else that's funny, but everything you need is right there with you in the scene. So just like, trust yourself. Sometimes you'll space out and, but just trust that you'll find it. Just give yourself a second to think about it too. I tend to rush myself and constantly want to talk about it, but I don't give myself a second to think about what I'm going to say, which is something I want to work on. So yeah, just thinking a little bit and trusting yourself and giving yourself a moment to think before you speak.
And you said it changed your life. In what way
Mm-hmm.
has improv changed your life?
Oh yeah, in so many ways. I always tell everyone should do it, in my opinion. But it's made me just not care what people think anymore about me. It's made me just be silly, and I never used to be able to raise my hand in class, and now I'm like always the first person because I don't care if I sound stupid. I don't care because no one else will do it if I don't do it. And I think that it just allows me to be silly and goofy and to not put limits on myself, and yeah, just not care what people think, which obviously happens inevitably because everyone does, but just less of it. And maybe I'm more aware of when I'm being hard on myself and I shouldn't be.
So what do you say to people who say, I could never do improv?
Yeah. I think that everyone can do improv. Right now we're improving. I don't know, what you're going to ask me next, and you don't know what I'm going to say next. We're improving every single day. So, we naturally do it. And I think that performing in front of other people, that's the scary part. And just, you know, being a character. I think it's just like a slow progression. Eventually, you find your place, your voice there. But I think that, it's very therapeutic and everyone can do it. And we constantly do it. So yeah, I think everyone should try it if they haven't.
Can you share a time when like improv has surprised you?
Oh, good question. When improv has surprised me. Oh yeah, I think that it surprised me in how much I use it in therapy sessions and how much I apply it in my everyday life. Um, like in therapy, we literally will do like externalizing exercises where maybe it's like a talking chair, like a Gestalt technique, where I'm having a client talk to an empty chair as if, they're talking to their abusive mother or something like that. Or, doing a family portrait, which is more, I believe, Virginia Satir method of, placing your family members in a portrait and like using other people and sort of like, allowing the therapist to kind of understand your family dynamic through doing that and having that portrait come to life, sort of. So there's a lot of like improv interventions that we use in therapy without even knowing it. And it's just allowed me to connect more with people and, understand body language more and ask myself, what that means. Is we have an exercise called What That Means Is, where we just go back and forth asking each other that. And we have yes and, which is the foundation of improv. And I just use that in everyday life and in my therapy sessions of like, what do you really mean when you say that?
So, what do your parents and your family think of your improv?
Oh, they love it. They love coming, and if I've done a show and they've, love coming to see me. My mom actually tried it. It scared her a lot too, but even she was terrified of doing it and she did it, it's really exciting, and I have support from them and they really encourage me to do it. So yeah.
How do you create a safe space? I know in therapy you create a safe space. How do you create a safe space for improv so that, like you said, it's scary. So
Yeah.
I think in the wrong space, right?
Right.
It wouldn't be safe, and you'd say, "I'm never going to do this again."
Right.
And I think that's what we all get, that we're afraid to perform, right? Sometimes we're afraid. I think
Right.
public speaking is one of the top things that people are afraid of, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so it sounds like it's helped you in public speaking. How do you create that safe space?
I think it's kind of the same in therapy. Like, sometimes therapy doesn't feel like a safe space for people and they, hold back. And I think it's about building rapport and creating an environment where it's okay to mess up and no one's judging you. I felt like my improv community is a really judgment-free zone where everyone's there to uplift you and support you. And, if you get negative feedback, it's not the end of the world. It's just like, a way to make you better. And most of the time it's people cheering you on, and all the, improvisers will go to your shows. It's the audience, or they're all like, people from your classes. So they're really there to support you and they have your back, and it's a lot of trust. And yeah, I think it's just like finding a supportive place where people, will encourage you and not put you down. And even if you're a beginner, just, even be celebrating the fact that you're there.
Grace, who are some of your role models in life?
Yeah, for sure. My number one is my dad. He has, he had such a hard life. He left Iran during the revolution. His mom passed away when he was young. She was like 40. And he left everything behind in Iran. And now he's a really successful a doctor here. So he's really inspirational to me. He taught me to be grateful for everything. When he was escaping Iran, he was being like shot at. He like had nothing, had like nothing on him. He was, relied on the kindness of strangers to give him like a place to stay, and like gave him stale bread. And he was like, Grace, that stale bread tasted like the best meal ever. And like seeing the sunlight after only being able to travel in darkness because they were escaping. So they needed to like leave at night. He's like, seeing that sunshine was like the best feeling ever. So I think just observing him and his life and how generous he is and how giving he is, considering how hard his life is or was. I think that's really inspirational to me, and teaches me to just, be happy for what I have and not complain, even though I do complain and it's not good that I do, I guess. But yeah, just to be grateful for what I have. And um, he's been so supportive and, in every way. And, I just couldn't do what I do now without him. So he's my greatest role model.
If you could meet one person in your life in all of history, who would it be and what would you
Wow.
say?
Good question. Let's see, who would I want to meet in all of history?
And it could be someone present day too. And what would you say?
Sorry, what was that?
And what would you say to that he or she?
What would I say to them? Maybe I'd want to meet does it have to be a famous person?
No.
Okay,
No.
I'd want to meet my grandmother who passed away at a young age. I'd want to. People say I'm a lot like her and that I kind of look like her, so I would just want to meet her and talk to her and see what she's like, because I heard she's like a lovely person, and tell her how amazing her son is.
And then, well, your future goals. Tell me what your future goals are.
Yeah. So my future goals are the main goal is open private practice. Don't know my population yet, but hopefully, I want to stay here in LA, and I want to open up some sort of business called Inner Child Improv. And I want to like establish a group where we work on inner child work through improv interventions, essentially. So that's like my main goal right now is to start that.
Okay, your favorite music you listen to?
Oh wow. Okay. I like country music. I like a lot of indie music, like Sasha Sloan and Tender, and a lot of bands that people Cigarettes After Sex, which is more of a interesting name, but they're really talented. Um, I guess everyone likes Taylor Swift, so her. And yeah, I kind of just like a mix of everything. I don't have a specific artist that I listen to.
Guilty pleasure food wise.
Oh wow. I've been really good recently because I go to the gym every day. So I'm like, a health nut kind of right now. But I would say like pastries. Pastries, yeah.
Favorite country in the world that you visited or place?
Yeah. Well, Egypt was the most interesting, but I studied abroad in Paris, which is such a cliche answer, but I feel like I know it better than any other place. Before I went to USC, I spent my freshman year abroad in Paris, and that was such a fun, incredible experience, and I'll never forget it. It's like one of the best moments in my life, and I think that's been a special experience for me.
And if somebody wants to follow you in your career, what's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, I have an Instagram that I'm trying to grow about inner child work. It's at therapist underscore Grace underscore my last name Nowzari. It's kind of confusing, but yeah, that's my Instagram, and that's the best place to follow me. And I will, follow you back if I recognize you from somewhere in my life.
Grace, I have to tell you, thank you so much for being here. You always have so much energy and joy. Anybody that knows you really, really appreciates you.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and thank you for being always so friendly and a light to so many people. And thank you so much for coming on here today. I really appreciate it because, you know, like I said, I love learning and listening to people speak about all aspects of their lives, but especially what I think is really important is looking at new topics and areas we've never ever discussed. And you brought up so many great things today, and now I have a new respect. And I've always liked improv because I'm always impressed about how quick people are able to respond to things, and just I think it's very intellectually challenging,
Yeah.
and it can be funny too. But like you said, it doesn't have to be funny all the time, but you know it really, really pushes you. So I really appreciate you speaking to us about that today, and then being so vulnerable about your life and how you're staying focused and making an impact on folks' lives. So Thank you so much for being here. I really
For
appreciate
having
you.
me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, yes. And until next time, everyone, until our next wonderful guest, have a great, great week and fight on.